You know who it is, Don Castaneda, expert life coach, recovery coach, intervention professional, and also ex-Marine. I was going to talk a little bit about my experience in wartime overseas in Iraq. I did not go to Afghanistan. Could have gone. I didn't extend, which is like a partial reenlistment, but still did my time in guard duty until I discharged and transitioned to the civilian sector. But in Iraq, I would say that in regards to Al Qaeda and ISIS and all those terrorist groups out there in the Middle East, some of the military members consider them and refer to them actually as, gang members. It's like a gang. It's gang, a gang. And they are basically that. They're essentially that, a gang. They operate and conduct illegal activities. They operate, covertly and secretively, and do a lot of violence against American troops and even their own citizens, even the Iraqi army. Uh, you know, they'll send out a V-bed, blow up their own towers, blow up their own buildings with Iraqi police inside them and Iraqi army. Um, and they'll do that same to American troops and American citizens. V-beds, a vehicle-borne IED, and then also IEDs and all that. So you've heard stories. You could research statistics of a lot of soldiers coming back with missing legs or missing limbs, and sometimes they don't come back at all. Um, in regards to how that relates to the civilian sector, the American civilian sector, we have our own gangs, and they can be charged with domestic terrorism. Some of them do. Some of them get charged with domestic terrorism because that's what they are. Domestic terrorists, syndicate groups, underground, corrupt, illegal, gang members. There's MS-13, there's Bloods, there's Crips, white supremacists, black disciples, Mexican mafia, Texas syndicates, and all sorts of different gangs and cliques. So, there's Otahoe and Tango Blast. There's all sorts of gangs that some of them, they consider themselves like little families, little family members. Sometimes they just have to protect themselves in certain neighborhoods, or in gangs and prisons, they have to protect themselves from other gangs, other races, or sometimes even the guards, because they could be corrupt and, basically coordinate the stabbings and stuff like that. So you have to protect yourself from anyone you don't trust. And so you have your tight circle of just trusted members. Now, how that makes sense with gang members in the civilian sector. They are terrorists, and we don't have enough. The police, all they're really what is it called, provision to do is basically make arrests. Just arrest these domestic terrorists, these gang members, or suspected gang members, whatever. MS-13, which is one of the worst. Child predators, drug dealers, stuff like that. And just people who ambush the elderly. Sometimes they have TikTok trends or whatever, just dumb kids or whatever. Sometimes they are in gangs, but they'll just attack and ambush elderly and then rob them, stuff like that. Rob, home invasions, carjackings, and stuff like that. But so how? And I didn't have this plan. So what I'll just say on this is, I guess we need more military and in civilian sector, because it is a war. There are gang members out there, and they do commit a certain amount of homicides and a lot of drug dealings and people overdosing on fentanyl, and they feel they're truly untouchable. And they some of them, in a sense, I guess they can be, because a lot of people fear them. There's a lot of intimidation. Sometimes the police are intimidated, and sometimes their hands are tied, they can't do anything. But some of them are truly evil, and they've killed a lot of people with a drug overdose. Sometimes just whatever, crack, meth. They have sometimes people have heart attacks, or if it's laced with fentanyl, they just go to sleep and die. So because they're responsible for things like that, shootings. I know I've read some stories in the newspaper where there'll be a leader of a gang that kills an elderly woman for the money in her purse, and they shoot her, and then they go and try to bury her. And so he has two soldiers that, two gang members that he orders to go dig a hole, and then they're gonna bury her, and she's still alive. She's bleeding. They shot her in the gut. Apparently they're burying her alive, wounded with a gunshot wound. and she died because they buried her alive with a gunshot wound. And once they recovered her body and all that, the guy who ordered it, the gang member who ordered it, he got the death penalty. But the two soldiers who helped him bury her and shot her and all that, they just got life in prison because they were just following orders. See, that's messed up. They should have all got the death penalty. That's what I think. Now, if there's people out there, more eyes and ears on the street, if there's good people, there should be like a good gang, a good gang to combat evil like that. MS-13 has been known to, kill high school girls, to like high school teenagers, for disrespect. And the disrespect was they just didn't want to date them. They didn't want to have sex with them. So the MS-13 gang members, they beat them to death with baseball bats and machetes, and they killed them. So, they could be very violent if they're just told no, if not having sex with them or not dating them, whatever. So that's extremely perverse. It's perverted, and it's extremely evil, and that's wrong. They if there was more eyes and ears on the street, if people were more prepared, if the women had some friends that could act as their bodyguards, maybe they could run. They should have ran. But for they bad things happen to good people. And there's back where I live over where I used to live, over by Sherrod, Cibolo, here in Texas, which is east of San Antonio, south of Austin. There's maybe 20 years ago, there's a 10-year-old girl named Heidi, and they were talking about her in schools and everything. And she was abducted, raped, and murdered, and stabbed to death, and buried in the woods. Not even buried, she was just thrown in the woods like trash, naked. And so people do that. Sometimes it's truck drivers, sometimes it's gang members. They don't know who, because the guy that did it got away with it. And so sometimes they'll just find a 10-year-old girl, a dead body, a lifeless body, just naked in the woods, stabbed up. So, there's other cases like that have happened in San Antonio. There have been pregnant women who've been shot in the head. A woman who's pregnant, who's going to give birth to a baby, and she's just ambushed in her car and shot in the head by some crazy person. Maybe they don't know. I don't know if they caught him or not. I don't remember, but I think there's huge investigation. The Secret Service was investigating that case, and they're trying to figure out the motive or who it was and stuff like that. And if there's anyone else connected and all that, if it was like for some sort of mafia hit or whatever. But trying to figure out for what reason would someone do that. And sometimes you don't know. Sometimes these syndicates and cartels, sometimes like the cartel, like the drug cartel, Mexican cartel, any cartel, right? They just get practice. Now, when they kill someone, it's just practice for them. They're told, sometimes they're just given an order, cut this person up. And if they hesitate, they get killed. They cannot hesitate. And so they have to chop them up right away. They have to kill someone right away. They're just following orders, and it's just practice for them. When they start when they kill innocent people, just innocent people walking on the sidewalk, a jogger, a woman walking her dog, a woman with a baby in her stroller, they'll kill the baby and the woman, doesn't matter. Like, it's just practice for them. And once they rack up 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 kills, whatever, they're considered like, seasoned or expert or whatever. And like a professional hitman. And there's different terms for that in Spanish. It's like sicario. If you've seen that movie, sicario means hitman. Asesino, maybe that's like assassin in Spanish or something like that. So there's different slang, right? And they really they believe in that stuff. So I doubt that there's any good behind that, right? They're trying to sell drugs. They're doing a cartel. They're killing police. They're protecting their members, and they're instilling fear and terror in the city and within the people. So I don't know if there's anything really good other than for them. They have nowhere else to go. They're like lost souls, and there's just life for them. There's just survival. I guess survival is just the only way they know how to make money. And they're just kind of violent, kind of evil, malevolent, right? So there's not enough people to combat people like that, right? There's veterans, there's soldiers, active duty military. But I've been told that the military is not really allowed to do anything locally. Military is really for overseas, like overseas war, like world police, and they'll go overseas and go to war and stuff like that. But the military is not really authorized to go to war with its own people, right? That's why, when Trump issues executive orders, like he's going to designate MS-13 as foreign terrorists, or the drug cartel, the Mexican drug cartel, as foreign terrorists. Then under certain chapters and laws or whatever, they could go to war with them. They haven't yet, but like as you've seen in the news, they've deployed National Guard to different cities, Washington D.C. and different states and cities, so they can kind of take over the National Guard, kind of patrolling, doing some policing, some scouting, some reconnaissance, making some arrests, but they're not truly going to war. They're not kicking down doors. I mean, ICE is deporting people, but they're not kicking down doors. The government's not just blasting people away. And that's what you do in war. You kick down doors, you just blast people away. You kill suspected terrorists, kill terrorists if you know where they're at and you've been watching them and you've been following them and you have information. The whole city saying these people are terrorists, there's circumstantial evidence and all this and that. That's warfare. You take out the bad guys. So there's none of that happening in the U.S. And it'd be a lot safer if there was, right? If you knew where a lot of the most dangerous, the most evil people were in society that have abducted children, raped children, killed children. I mean, there's a sex predator watch list, familywatchdog.us, right? Sex predator watch list. And so that's just one example. Now the FBI and the CIA, NSA, all that, they're going to have a watch list. They're going to have addresses, information, names, numbers, and all that of actual gang members, right? MS-13, Bloods, Crips, Syndicates, White Supremacists, Black Disciples, Mexican Mafia, Texas Syndicates, and all that, different prison cliques. And obviously, a lot of them maybe have petty crimes, right? Not too serious, or maybe they're just rival gang members and gangs going back and forth. But when you're attacking innocent civilians, like maybe an innocent woman, innocent children, and you're doing something extremely heinous, then I think the government should be allowed to kick down their door and blast them away. That's just my personal belief, because there should be a war, right? Because they've started a war. They've basically taken an action that said, hey, this is war. I'm starting shit. I'm starting war. And the government just doesn't do anything about it. They're like, well, they make up excuses. All they have to do is sign a piece of paper saying that, look, this is war. This is basically domestic terrorism. Not only are we going to charge you, but we're going to hunt you down. There's always like these killers out there that will kill someone and they don't get caught, right? And you'll see maybe on some TV show on 20 minutes or whatever, 60 minutes, whatever it's called. What is it called? 48 hours. 48 hours is another one. But they'll always say, we will hunt you down. We will find you. There's no place you can hide. You're going to live your whole life in fear that we're going to find you and send you to prison to rot. Sometimes rotting sucks. Rotting in prison can really suck really bad, right? Your health declines, your mental health and physical health. But how is that even a threat? It's like they're not even threatening them. They committed a heinous crime. Say someone kills your whole family. Someone killed your wife and your kids, right? Like that movie, Law Abiding Citizen. And the police don't do anything. They'll just give them like probation, like 10 years of prison time, some probation, if they have a really good lawyer, for whatever reason. Like there's some cases, maybe they get 20 years. Half of that is aggravated, whatever, right? So they, how's that even, like, that could be punishment, I guess. And a lot of people would just accept that's the punishment. But like you saw in Law Abiding Citizen, he caught the guy, he tortured him to death, he recorded it, he sent the video to the district attorney, and he went to war, right? He went to war with the system, the government system, the legal system, all that. All I'm saying is that if someone did that to your wife and children, what kind of man would you be if you didn't go to war, right? If so you should sometimes exacting revenge is the only thing to do. It's the only honorable thing to do, right? And that's not, I mean, in the civilian sector, some people might see that as wrong, whatever. But in war, right, if you're overseas in war, a terrorist kills your brother, the person next to you that you've known your whole military career. uh, what are you gonna do? Just say, oh well, we'll handle it. We'll do some paperwork. No, you're gonna shoot back. You're gonna hunt them down, right? If they run, you're gonna hunt them down, and that's not imminent danger. You're not in imminent danger, right? You're hunting them down to kill them. And the government says, oh, that's overseas, that's war. Well, that's no different than how it should be in the civilian sector. Civilians don't understand that, right? Hunting and killing, going to war to take out terrorists or to take out, someone who killed one of your brothers, or your comrades. So in the civilian sector, in America, in this nation, in this country, right? There's probably not enough. There's a lot of patriots, there's a lot of veterans, there's a lot of soldiers, but there's not a whole lot of people with the mindset that they need to make society a safer place somehow. If something happens to you, you're going to make it right, right? Whatever that takes, make it right. And so, if that made sense, um, I hope that sticks with you, because for me, it's like there's obviously a lot of people who take initiative, which is called like taking initiative, taking action, a certain action. Some training is beneficial, right? Some training, a lot of it is kind of, I guess, not self-explanatory, but common sense, right? There's a lot of common sense stuff. You see stuff in the movies, you read stuff on the internet, you kind of premeditate and all that stuff, and that's where it gets down to all this legal terminology where people will see whatever you're doing as illegal, right? You could be a vigilante. A lot of there are some vigilantes, right? There's a vigilante in Australia. He went to a sex predator website, and he found he got like maybe 20 predators, but he just beat them up. He assaulted them. He got 20 years in prison for finding predators that would molest, abuse, and rape children, and he assaulted them. He beat them up, and he got 20 years in prison for assault. That's retarded. That's like he should be given an award and a medal and like $1 million or something like that, in my mind, in my opinion. And other people share the same opinion as well, right? I've had people who work for the government, case managers, tell me that he was like an angel of justice, and that I could do. They were like, yeah, you should do some shit like that. I'm like, man, go in prison for that. That would kind of suck, and then I'd be tortured with medication in the psych ward. So really, it's up to other people who are more in shape, right? I've got a lot of problems. I'm older now, and but that is it's a good concept, and it's a good traditional kind of belief, to where you want to make things right. Whenever I go out to Walmart, HEB, or anywhere in the city, right, walking the streets, going to the gym, riding around the neighborhood, I consider myself as a bodyguard. I'll consider myself like security, right? And you have to think like that. I've made videos like this in the past, but you have to think like, if you're a man, even a woman, if you have a concealed weapon, or even like a mace or a taser or something like a knife, or even if you're just unarmed, all you have is your fists, right? Then you have to know kind of a little bit of kung fu, a little karate. You have to know how to fight a little bit, and just think of yourself as security and a bodyguard, right? If there's women and children out there, you have to think, if something does happen, you have to help, right? You should know CPR. You should have your phone with you so you could call an ambulance or call 911, EMT, whatever, so that they could get there if something does happen, right? If there's a baby choking, or if there's a child choking, or if there's maybe obviously like an active shooter, or if there's a violent person or something like that, then you can protect them, right? Not just call the cops, but you can intervene and physically protect them from harm, whoever it is, right? So if you can assess the situation, you can analyze and see who poses the danger, then you can help. And for me, because I've been thinking about that for a while, like whenever I go out, I have to be a protector. That's what you are, a protector, a guardian angel, right? Then sometimes as you go deeper into that mindset, then you see it, well, there's a lot of people that need protection, right? Sometimes there could be financial protection. When I go to places, I'll tip a little bit. I went to this place, I tipped this lady $10. which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a little bit more than she probably makes in general tips. You know, sometimes if I go get a coffee or tea or something like that, or some food, $1 or $2 here and there, but every day that adds up. You know, $2 a day every day, 365 days a year. That, what is that, like 700 something dollars, over $700 a year, right? So about 730 bucks a year, and that's more than they're making without my generosity or my support, or as I see, my protection, right? Because if they have health requirements, it gets them food, it gets them vitamins, gets them nutrients, it gives them power like electricity and water and stuff like that. It gives them like utilities and rent, mortgage, whatever they got, and they don't make much. So that's another form of protection, right? Just helping people with generosity financially. But if you look at the physical, or there's emotional protection, you know, psychological protection, spiritual protection, things like that. So I do get a little religious and speak on religion a little bit because it helps people, and it can also be a form of protection, making people feel safe. Um, and I do go to church sometimes. But on the other hand, there's also physical protection where, you know, I'll give another example. In a church, I forget that here in Texas, I think there was a church that got shot up by an active shooter. This dude had a shotgun. He was blasting church members. And there was like an undercover FBI agent off duty, and he shot the active shooter. You know, after it took him about 6 seconds to realize what was going on, and he killed him. He killed the active shooter. So I believe he was undercover FBI, and if he wasn't there in church, more people could have died. But you know, that's one form of protection. You have to be ready and prepared if something like that happens. You wouldn't expect it, and hopefully it never does happen. But for instance, I have a medical kit in my trunk to where if something does happen, like there's been accidents, car accidents, where I've stopped to see if they need help, if there's someone bleeding out or something like that. There's been a school bus that's been hit by a truck that the kids, you know, there's ambulances, there's firemen, all that, and the kids had to get off and you know, get home safely. Luckily, none of them were injured or harmed, and none of them had to take an ambulance or anything like that. They were startled, but you know, children can be hurt in accidents, families can be hurt in accidents, to where you should have a medical kit in your trunk in case you can rescue someone. It comes with quick clot, which if they're bleeding out, the quick clot can it cauterizes a wound. Chemical burn. It like chemically cauterizes arteries in a wound from bleeding out, and then you wrap it up with a tourniquet, right? It comes with a couple tourniquets as well, and a bunch of gauze. So you know that can save someone's life, and you know, so those are just a few examples, right? You can walk around with a taser, protect yourself from stray dogs. There's been elderly people who've been mauled to death by stray dogs, like a pack of dogs, 3, 4 dogs. Sometimes 1 or 2 dogs can still do some damage and make you bleed to death and bite you in the femoral artery, or just bite the hell out of you and you just eventually bleed out, or you get mauled and you have to go to hospital. Sometimes people don't make it, right? So you have to protect yourself with a knife, some mace. You can mace the dogs. If you want to walk around with mace, some people walk around with little batons. These little batons can stun them. It has a little electrocutor, some of them, or just a knife. Stab the dog in the throat, jab it in the eyes, poke it in the eyes with your thumb or your finger. Maybe it'll let go. I've never had to do it, but that's something I think about in case if I'm unarmed. You just have to jam it in the eyes, rip its eye out, and hopefully it'll leave, right? Hopefully it'll whimper off. And then there's also a taser. Maybe you could tase a dog, right? If you have to. If there's 3 or 4 of them, you're kind of screwed, right? Because those tasers only come with like 1 or 2 shots. So, you know, sometimes a gun. A gun is the most realistic way to stop a pack of dogs, or, you know, a pack of gang members or whatever. So, you know, just be protected, keep yourself safe, keep your family safe. And, you know, I did go down a rabbit hole of mindsets and, you know, different ideology, or whatever you want to call it, philosophy, I guess. But a lot of it is just me speaking my voice. There's freedom of speech, there's freedom of ideas. And these are kind of like my beliefs, I guess. And I'm not like a die hard, like I'm going to do everything I believe in. there's certain beliefs that you can have. Like there's a lot of Christians who don't go to church, but you still believe in God, right? You just don't have the time or energy or money to be donating 10% of your paycheck every month to church, right? That's a lot of money. A lot of people don't do that. But I do believe in justice. I do believe in street justice. I do believe in vigilantism. I do believe in protecting the innocent. I do believe there's a lot of people, women and children, and just people out there who do need protection. And I do believe the police are inadequate to protect a lot of citizens from the cartels, from gang members, from domestic terrorists, you know. And the FBI is inadequate. CIA doesn't even care. They do with international spy warfare and shit like that. Homeland Security, they're dealing with airports and crap like that. They don't have time or money or resources. There's not enough members in the government, right? You look up the population of the U.S. government, not a lot. Compared to how many citizens there are in America. There's so many people in America. There's so much happening. It's a lot of kind of chaos, what I call like it's a jungle, right? It's a concrete jungle, and you know, people are out there, wild animals committing rape, you know, drugging people up, women getting roofied, you know, people not making it, people disappearing, people going MIA. And you know, people and children on basically the being abducted, right, on the FBI abduction list. So we need a lot of strong men out there to be protectors. Even women can be protectors by speaking their voice, walking around with a pistol. Some women are very capable and very strong, and some men aren't, but some men are, you know. So be that protector, be that family guardian, be that legal guardian, be that guardian angel, right? Be the angel of justice, and just be a protector. Be someone out there who can keep society safe, keep citizens safe, your family safe, children safe, women safe, and do the best you can. Learn, train, be better, meditate, premeditate, think more, learn from movies, learn from visual. It's called visual training, right? Learn from AI, learn from research, learn from news articles, read the news, right? See what's happening. And if you could do something about it, then write those letters to Congress, write those letters to the Senate, write those letters to the legislature, pass laws, protest, you know, speak on podcasts, get people involved, and let your voice be heard, you know? That's the biggest way to make an impact, right? Let your voice be heard. Have a large influence, right? Like the Million Man March, or be a very well-known speaker to where, you know, you just make a huge impact in people's lives, and you get people to believe in the same things you do, and you can walk the streets with the same cause, right? You can all have the same mindset and work towards a common goal, right? Which is keeping women and children and society safe from predators, cartel, drugs, you know, domestic terrorists, gang members, MS-13, you know, shit like that. So that's what I'll say for now. I hope that made sense. And stay safe and take care.